Hello friends, my name is Aubrey. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy to have you here with me today. So just to preface this whole video, I've not had a very good week again. It's not been a good couple of weeks. So I apologize if I seem at all off or have a hard time getting my thoughts together at any point. Please just bear with me. But today we're going to do something very exciting. We are going to continue the series of videos where I talk about my favorite books of all time. And for this one, we are going to start with the first installment of my favorite series of all time. So if you have not seen the first video in this little project I'm doing, I will link it below. But in the first one, I started talking about my favorite standalones and I kind of explain what exactly I'm going to be doing. But just to give you a very brief introduction if you're new here, I'm not very good at rating things or narrowing down lists of my favorite anything. If I love something, then I love it. And so I can't do a top 10 favorites list or anything like that because it would drive me crazy trying to actually make it. So instead, what I'm doing is I'm actually doing a series of videos where I talk about just all of my favorite books. So in some videos, I will be talking about my favorite standalones. In others, I will be talking about my favorite series. And I'm just going to go through the alphabet and just talk about 5 books at a time, or 5 series at a time, as the case may be. And as I continue to read more, hopefully I will find new favorites, and as I do, we will just stick them in the list and add them on as we go. So in the first video, like I said, I talked about the first 5 of my favorite standalones, and now we're going to talk about the first 5 alphabetically of my favorite series. So these are not all of my favorite series by any means. It's just the first 5 on the list, because if I did any more than 5, we would be here forever. And one rule that I have set for myself for defining a series as one of my favorite series is I have to have read at least 2 books in the series and still feel like it's one of my favorites. So for example, Howl by Diana Wynne Jones. I've only read Howl's Moving Castle. I'm currently reading Castle in the Air, which is the second book in the series. So until I have finished that and determined that yes, I have read 2 and it is still one of my favorite series, I have not put it on the list yet. That's just an example. We're not in the H's anyway. This list actually ends in the C's. So, but that's just an example. So all of these series that we're going to talk about today, I have read at least 2 of the books in the series, and I'll let you know how many I've read, if I'm up to date, or if I've completed it, or if I'm behind, anything like that, and still consider them to be some of my favorites. So without further ado, we're just going to go ahead and get started with the first series that I have here. And as I said, these are just in alphabetical order because, again, I'm not good at ranking things. And there's no way I could say, oh, well, I like this one more than this one, but I like this one more than that one. But then I like this one less than all of them. I can't. I can't do that. So I'm not going to. So just in alphabetical order, that is the only order. This is not in order of enjoyment, anything like that. Okay, so first series on the list is actually a manga, and it's a manga that I discovered pretty recently, so it's not a favorite from childhood or anything like that. I discovered it a couple of years ago, and I have just been loving it, and that is A Gentle Noble's Vacation Recommendation by Misaki Momocho, 8-Key, and Sando, and then some of the other volumes are also by Lamp Maganote, I believe is their name. So this series is just so much fun. It's not anything groundbreaking by any means. It's not it has super, super clever writing or really emotional character development or anything like that. But I just really enjoy it. I really, really like the tropes that are in here. I really like the found family that is forming between these characters. And you know what? Books don't have to be groundbreaking to be loved. And so I just really, really love this series. But in this series, we follow our main character, Lizel, who wakes up in a new world. So this is an isekai or a transmigration story. And this new world is very similar to his own in that it is very medieval in its setting and in its governmental system and things of that nature, but it is different. And when Liesel gets there, he decides that he is going to take this as an opportunity to just kind of have a vacation and enjoy living in this new world until he finds a way potentially to get back to his own. And he ends up meeting Gil, who is a very, very overpowered adventurer from the Adventurers Guild. And Liesel decides that he wants to become an adventurer because this will give him something fun to do. It's something he's never done before. And so he hires Gil to be his like bodyguard and kind of help him learn the ropes of adventuring and like going into these dungeons and completing quests. And you know, things develop from there with Liesel meeting new people, making new friends, getting himself kind of embroiled in different conflicts and different events that are occurring in this world. And I just really, really like it. We have a lot of very overpowered characters. Like Gil is very, very overpowered. But overpowered characters don't bother me as long as they're done in a way that it's like, it's clear that they're overpowered. So either we have them that they are just like not the norm, right? Like they are the epitome of whatever ability or strength it is. So other people just really don't match them and they are special. Or we have characters also kind of along the same lines where it's like kind of just funny. So I just really like seeing other characters' reactions to characters like Gil when he shows up and everyone's like, oh my gosh, it's this legendary adventurer who is so strong and so powered. His kind of nickname is Single Strike because he can like take his foes down in a single strike. And it's just really fun because other people, when they realize who he is, are just jaw-dropped, open-mouthed, completely in awe, right? Or terrified, depending on which side they're on. And I just think that stuff is really fun in a story sometimes, not in everything. But in stories like this, I think it works really well. And I also really like Liesel. He's very, very competent and very good at like playing the field. And I really like intelligent characters who know how to use their intelligence, right? Who are good at whatever field that they're in. And Liesel is very much a part of like politics. And like political maneuvering and like relations between people. He's very good at all of that sort of thing. Also a very good strategist. I've never been sure how you actually pronounce that word. He's very good at making plans for battles or otherwise that work out well. He's very good at reading people and understanding people's motivations and being able to predict what it is that they're going to do. I just like it. I really like very clever characters. I like seeing the way that their minds work. Now, the series does have some problems for me in that there are a few places where there is a time jump, but you don't quite realize it's a time jump at first. Or even if you do realize it's a time jump, I guess I can't speak for everyone, but I was like, okay, so then this thing is happening now? Like, what happened leading up to this? How did we get to this point? However, they do go back and have flashbacks that like explain things. And I think the reason it's set up like this in a couple of places is because Liesel is so able to predict and determine what's going to happen. It doesn't want to spoil that for the reader. It wants you to see what's happening and have that suspense of like, oh my gosh, is this part of the plan or has something gone terribly wrong? And then you get to see why they're there, like how Liesel got them to this point. And so it bothered me when I was reading and got confused, but then once I saw what was being done and why, I was able to be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I just wish that maybe there had been some kind of like indicator of like, 2 days later, 2 hours later or something, so that it's not quite so jarring and not quite so confusing. And then you can maybe like determine, okay, well, I'm sure since there's clearly a time jump, it wasn't me. I didn't miss anything. So I'm sure we'll find out, information we need as we go. That would have been helpful. But again, I just really like the series, and the art you can't tell from the cover because the cover is very pretty, but the art in this first volume can be kind of awkward, especially with like people's expressions and their faces, and uh, just sometimes it can be a little bit awkward. The art does improve very well as the series goes on. The backgrounds are also pretty simplistic, especially in this first volume, but again, they get more developed and detailed as the series goes on, and these artists are kind of honing their craft and getting better at drawing these characters and these locations. But yeah, I just really like it. And as I mentioned earlier, I love the found family in here. It is not like that found family that's just like I feel like there's different kinds of found family, and this is one of those where people are rallying around a specific person and like being wholeheartedly devoted to them and wanting to take care of them. Um, and I think that that can be really fun sometimes in a story. So I really like the series. I know it would not be for everyone, but it is for me. I very much enjoy it. I'm just waiting for volume 12, I think it is, to come out because I've read, actually maybe it's volume 11. I think there are 10 volumes out so far, and I've read through volume 9 because I do like to have at least 2 volumes to read together so it doesn't go by quite so quickly. So I am a volume behind with the English releases, but I don't know when volume 11 will come out, but I'm very much looking forward to it when it does. Then this next series did not start out actually as one of my favorite book series. It actually started out as one of my favorite podcasts, and it is being adapted into a graphic novel series, and I love it so much. So even though the podcast is like where my heart truly lies, because it was the original source material, the graphic novels are also amazing, and so I have to include them here because these characters and this story, they just are a part of me now. And that is the Adventure Zone. So the podcast is run by the McElroy brothers and their dad. So we have Clint McElroy and his sons Griffin, Travis, and Justin. And then the graphic novel is also being illustrated by Carrie Peach, I believe is how you pronounce their name. So in the podcast, the McElroys are actually playing D&D with one another, with Griffin being the Dungeon Master or DM. And in the graphic novels, it is pretty faithful to the original source material, which makes sense because the McElroys had a direct hand in the creation of these adaptations. But in this story, we follow 3 adventurers. We have Taco, Magnus Burnsides, and Merle Highchurch. And at the beginning of the story, the 3 of them have been hired by Merle's cousin to essentially guard his wagon of goods on the way to find this treasure that he says like is going to make them so rich that this will be the last job that they ever need again. However, the treasure is not all that it appears. Merle's cousin is not being entirely truthful. There is great danger involved, and the 3 boys actually somehow get enmeshed in the plans of a secret organization with a number of very dangerous artifacts and potentially the destruction of the entire world on the line. So it starts out with when they were doing the podcast, it started out with one of those like pre-made adventures. But Griffin very quickly turns it into something uniquely his own as the DM, and the story is just so good. And these characters, so Justin plays Taco, Travis plays Magnus, and Clint plays Merle, these characters just become so fully realized, and they do such a good job of developing and establishing their personalities and their friendship as a group, and the way that they care about one another and how they want to help one another, while also still like very much being hilarious and kind of self-serving at times. They are very good people. And it is so much fun. even if you don't play D&D, I'm sorry, I have like a cat hair or something on my face and it's driving me crazy. But even if you don't play D&D, even if you have never played D&D in your life, you can still follow along with this and enjoy it so much. It does sometimes include the like stats and sometimes the dice rolls. Not as much obviously as in the podcast where they are actively playing. And there are like a lot of D&D like spells, classes, races, that sort of thing. But it's very, very easy to follow. This was actually my first real introduction to Dungeons and Dragons, aside from The Legend of Drizzt, which is written very much like not like a game. It is like a set of stories set within the Forgotten Realms, like Dungeons and Dragons universe. Um, but so this one was my first, like that one introduced me to characters, creatures, races, that sort of thing that are within the Dungeons and Dragons world. But the Adventure Zone introduced me to the actual gameplay and the game. And so it was my first exposure to that. Like really, I mean, I'd heard about D&D, I knew some things about it, but I had never actually like played or seen anyone play. And so, and it's really easy to follow along, and the art is like it's just actually beautiful. The coloring, the way the characters are drawn, their expressions, especially Taco's, can be quite exaggerated, so it does have that kind of like comic feel to it where, you know, they look like this, but sometimes the expressions they make, especially when they are angry or scared, and by angry I mean like grumpy angry, not like furious or righteously angry, but can be really hilarious. And it's so good. The side characters, you really fall in love with a number of them and want to care about them. And I have to praise Griffin for his storytelling and the way that he set up this campaign and the way that he was able to kind of predict certain things that his family would do and incorporate them in, but also go with all of their crazy, like when they do something that just seems off the rails or that he had no idea that they were going to do, the way that he is then able to just like be like, okay, and then just incorporate that in and go from there. I have to give him like some serious praise for that because that takes a lot of talent. um, but yeah, this story is so good and it gets so much bigger than you see in the very beginning. I highly recommend listening to the podcast as well, but the graphic novels are so lovely. They are, I mean, graphic novels, they don't take a ton of time to read, and there are 6 of them out so far. We are rapidly approaching the end. The podcast has completed, at least with this storyline, which is called the balance arc in the podcast. They have some more games that they've played where with different characters and different DMs and whatnot. So anyway, the graphic novels are approaching completion. I have read all of the 6 that are out so far. I have listened to the podcast, so I know the story, and even knowing what's going to happen, it's still just so delightful. It's so delightful. And there are so many like emotional moments, and there is so much character growth, and you really learn about these characters' backstories as the story goes on. It's so good, and it is hilarious. I will give a warning and say a lot of the jokes in here are very much not appropriate for a younger audience. This is not really something that I would let kids listen to or read. The jokes can be quite crude. There are curse words, things of that nature. But they're also really, really clever. They really are. The 4 of them are so clever, and it's so hilarious, and I cannot recommend it enough. All right, moving on to something completely different with our 3rd series. We have All for the Game by Nora Sakavic. So this is book 1, The Foxhole Court. I have read the original trilogy. There is a continuation that follows some side characters from the original books that has recently begun. There are 2 books out in it so far, and I have not started that yet. So was complete for a while. Am no longer complete on this series. What can I say about All for the Game? It is really, really, really dramatic. very over the top, very dramatic, I feel like is the best way to say this. It's really like a very dark soap opera, I think. This coming from someone who doesn't watch soap operas, so forgive me if that description is at all inaccurate. But it is like a very dark soap opera, I think. In this series, we follow Neil Jawson, who has run away from home for reasons that I will not go over in this video because of spoilers. Very good reasons, I might add. And he has kind of been living under the radar, traveling from place to place, but then he gets recruited to a college XC team. So XC is a sport that exists in this world that is very, very popular, and Neil has loved XC since he was little. All he has ever wanted to do is to be able to play it. And he never really thought that he would get the chance to do so on a higher level than just like being on a high school team for a season before he moves to the next place. And so he cannot stop himself from taking the college up on this offer. So he becomes a member of the Palmetto University Foxes, and this group of kids have a lot going on. They all have various trauma that they are dealing with and circumstances in their past that have led them to really need a second chance. And that is kind of what the coach of this team, Coach David Wymack, that's why he formed this team in the first place. He wants to give kids who otherwise maybe wouldn't be able to go to college, who are stuck in a really bad situation and have no other way out, who don't really see a future for themselves. He wants to give them an opportunity to have something better, to be able to go to school and further their education and have a team, which hopefully will be like a family, although there's a lot of strife because there, like I said, a lot of people with trauma with very different personalities. They do not always get along well. And somehow they have to be a team and play on this grand collegiate field. However, Neil's past starts to catch up with him. And yeah, there are a lot of really dark things in here. There are a lot of really dark topics, very dark topics. If you are at all concerned, please check trigger warnings. I'm not going to go over them in this video because for people who don't want to be spoiled on what's in here, but like please check trigger warnings if you are at all concerned, if there are topics that might bother you. Like be safe. But it gets very dark, but there is also a lot of just... Sorry, my phone's dying. There is a lot of strength and resilience in these kids, and again, found family, very dysfunctional found family at times, but there is definitely found family elements in here, and it gets worse before it gets better. Let me just say that. It's like, as I was reading it for the first time, there were so many times that I'm like, okay, they're improving, they're getting better. Never mind. And then kind of starts all over. But the relationships that these characters form with each other, the way that they are, some of them, Neil is one, Andrew Minyard is another. He is another member of the team who comes, like I said, from a very bad place as well. And he and Neil instantly have sort of a reaction to one another, shall we say. And so it does have some romance in it. I'll just go ahead and say that. I'm not going to tell you what that means. But seeing some of these characters like learning to trust other people despite the ways that they've been hurt and all the things that they've been through, like there is a lot of really cool themes in here, and I think that's why the people who love this series love it. You just have to get through all of the hurt and all of the darkness, and there's quite a bit. And this is not normally the kind of thing that I would read, but I had seen someone talking about it years and years and years ago, and I actually got the like Kindle versions. I don't have a Kindle, so I was reading them like on the Kindle app on my laptop, and I just could not stop reading. After I finished the first one, I immediately bought the other two, and it was addicting, right? Like I had to know what was going to happen to these people. Um, so yeah, I don't know what else to say about it other than that. It's not my typical thing, not my typical cup of tea, but I do love some good uh hurt comfort, shall we say, if you read fanfics, where I don't love the hurt, but I love the comfort. I love seeing characters be able to heal and to do better and find themselves in a better place and have someone who helps them heal. I am kind of a sucker for that, so you know. um, but yeah, so all for the game. I also really like the Exy part. I don't play any sports. I did dance for 8 years and martial arts for three. Um, and I miss it. I miss both of them, and I wish that I still did them. But other than that, like, I didn't do anything, any like other sports, but I have realized that even though I'm not like a huge sports fan in real life, I like watching some sports, and I like watching sports if people I know are in them. But I'm just not a big, like, I love dance, and I know that, I don't know that that counts as a sport, but I love figure skating. I really like swimming. I think swim meets are a lot of fun. Um, and I mean, just there are some sports that I really like, but I have realized that I really like sports in media. I love a good sports anime or manga. I really like the Exy, like when they're playing the games and when they're training. I think one of the reasons is I just really love seeing people love things and be really good at them. And so when you have these characters like Neil, who just love this sport wholeheartedly and like are so devoted to it because it makes them so happy and they're so good at it, I like that. So I don't know. Maybe that's the reason. Okay, so then the next one that I have here is actually a favorite from my childhood that continues to be a favorite, and it's not all because of nostalgia, okay? This series is genuinely incredible no matter what age you are, and that is the Bartimaeus trilogy by Jonathan Stroud. Oh my gosh. So it was originally a trilogy. I did read the trilogy. I then found out years later that he did write another book, which is a prequel to the trilogy. And I have not yet read that one. I really, really want to, but I'm also kind of stubborn and I really want a copy that's going to match these because they reprinted it and I don't like the new cover. I like the original cover. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't hate the new cover. I just really like the original cover, but we'll see. I will read it eventually. But the Bartimaeus trilogy is absolutely 100% one of my favorite series. I think about this story way more often than I probably should. Like just randomly, I will start thinking about these characters and thinking about this story, and it has been like that ever since I read it as a child. It has just lived with me for years. My mom is the same way. She read it with me when I was a kid, and she also, anytime people like will ask for book recommendations, this is one of the ones that she will recommend to them. If they are at all interested in fantasy, because it's so good. So in this story, we follow Nathaniel, who at the beginning of the series, I think he's 11. Yeah, he's 11 years old. He lives in a society, like an alternate version of our world. And he lives in London, I'm pretty sure. I know it's in England. I think it's in London, but I could be off on the actual specific location. Where he is training as an apprentice under a magician, because in this world, magicians are the ones with power. And the strength of the magician, the strength of their abilities, determines how much power they have. So Nathaniel's master is kind of low level in the government in England. And he is also a very unkind man. He is not nice. He is very mean to Nathaniel. And so Nathaniel ends up summoning a jinn who he should not have summoned, because the reason magicians have power is they have the ability to summon spirits from this other plane of existence known as the other place. And these spirits have various levels of power as well, all the way from like an imp up to an afrit and beyond, right? So Bartimaeus is a jinn. Jinn are pretty powerful. Not the most powerful, but definitely more than an 11-year-old apprentice should be able to summon and control. And yes, the magicians do control them because they know their true name, so they have power over them. And the spirits they summon have to serve them. However, if the spirits discover the magician's true name, they can turn that power back on them, and it often ends very poorly for the magician because these spirits don't want to be here. They want to be on their other plane of existence. They are basically glorified slaves. There have been rare cases where there has been an amicable and mutually beneficial, friendly, maybe familial relationship between a spirit and a magician, but they are very much not the norm. They're outliers, very, very rare outliers at that. So, Nathaniel summons Bartimaeus, who is a very, very old jinn who has been summoned by magicians for thousands and thousands of years. And Bartimaeus steals something for Nathaniel from his master and saves him because his master has gotten himself tangled up in something he shouldn't have. And that something comes calling. And so Bartimaeus and Nathaniel are forced to go on the run, figure out what's going on. However, Bartimaeus has learned Nathaniel's true name. So it's so good. It's so good. The atmosphere in here, the characters. Bartimaeus is hilarious. The chapters alternate between their two perspectives. Bartimaeus' chapters are in first person, Nathaniel's are in third. And when we have Bartimaeus' chapters, let me just show you an example. He sometimes has footnotes where he will like expand on something that he's talking about and give you more world building or lore, but also Bartimaeus goes off track often, and he does so in his footnotes, where he'll mention something from his past and then he'll have to tell you like the whole story. Or he'll make like really snarky comments about stuff in his footnotes about different people. It's hilarious, and it's so well written. This world feels so real. These characters feel so real, so fully realized, like real people. And we get to see Nathaniel growing up through the 3 books and changing as he navigates this political landscape that he is a part of, because these people, power can be very corrupting. And Nathaniel finds himself dealing with that. And we get to see the way that he changes because of the power that he's given and the expectations that powerful people put on him, but also because of his relationship with people like Bartimaeus. It's so good. It's genuinely so good. The ending to this series is an ending that will stick with me forever. Again, I think about it so often. I will never forget it. It is so impactful. Like, genuinely. And it was the first time I had ever read a series that the ending hit me in this specific way. So, and I've read a lot of different books that have induced a lot of different emotions in me, even as a child. But the way that this ends, yeah. Also, I have to mention that the world building is just exquisite. The atmosphere is amazing. In book 2, we get to go to Prague. It's so good. Yeah, I cannot recommend the Bartimaeus trilogy enough to anybody. Everybody should read this. All right, and then series number 5, which will be the last one that we talk about today, but which is not the last of my favorite series by any means, is Camp Half-Blood by Rick Riordan. Specifically, today we're talking about Percy Jackson and the Olympians because that's the only series within Camp Half-Blood that I have read. So Camp Half-Blood does contain a number of interconnected series and books, and I've only read the original, which is Percy Jackson and the Olympians. If you have not heard of Percy Jackson or Camp Half-Blood, in Percy Jackson and the Olympians, we follow a boy named Percy who finds out that he is the son of Poseidon. He is a demigod. And he finds this out when monsters come after him and attack him. He's in middle school. And they actually take his mom. His mom is gone. The only person who has been a constant in his life is gone. And Percy is taken to a place called Camp Half-Blood, where they protect and train demigod children so that they can then protect themselves. And it is very much like a training camp for heroes, essentially. And this series is so much fun. It is a middle grade series. I think the books do, much like with Harry Potter, get a little more grown up as they go and as Percy and his friends age. But we follow the children of a number of Greek gods and goddesses in here. And there is so much Greek mythology. If you're a Greek mythology fan, like there is so much in here, so many different references to different myths and legends. From ancient Greece, there are characters and creatures, and it's like references to heroes from those stories. And I mean, Percy is Percy Jackson. His name is Perseus. Yeah? Okay. Anyway, and it's just so much fun. It's so much fun. It's such a good hero tale, right? Like seeing these kids overcoming the odds, being brave. Yes, I mean, it is one of those series where you have these children who are forced to take up the fight and do something that the adults around them can't or won't. But I mean, y'all, it's so good. If you're a fan of Harry Potter, you should really read Percy Jackson. Not that the settings or storyline are the same, but just that I feel like fans of one would love the other. You know what I mean? And I love the characters. I mean, Percy, it's told from his perspective, and he is hilarious. He is not a perfect person. He struggles with a lot. He has, like he has dyslexia. He really wants to like do well, but he like acts out at times. He's very much a teenager and a preteen. He's very much a child. And he feels like a real kid. And I love it. I love it so much. I read my brother's copies originally and hadn't had copies of my own for years, and then I was able to get this beautiful set from the Bookish Box and Shop. And I'm so happy that I have a set now because I really would like to reread this series and then continue on with Camp Half-Blood, because as I said, I've only read Percy Jackson and the Olympians. I have not gone beyond it. But I would like to, because the other series, in some of the other series, we start looking at mythology from other parts of the world. Like I know there's Egyptian and Roman. I mean, I know Roman was the same area, but different time period. And I think it'll be really fun. And we also see recurring characters and whatnot. So I really do want to continue this series. But these characters are so lovable. They're so lovable. And I, as a fan of Greek mythology, really appreciate the dedication to referencing those old myths and legends and including so many locations and creatures and objects and whatnot from them within the series. I really appreciate that. And I think the characterization of a number of the Greek gods and goddesses is really interesting and really spot on at times, and Rick Riordan is very, very clever. So anyway, Camp Half-Blood, specifically Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Okay, so those are the first 5 on my favorite series of all times list. All time list. I hope that this was fun. I hope that you enjoyed it. This is, like I said, by far not all of my favorite series. We will definitely continue this. I think maybe the next video, whenever it comes out, because I am just kind of like doing these as I feel like it. So the next video, I think we might go back to standalones. We'll see. But I will link the first video in this little series down below so that if you want to go see the first 5 of my favorite standalones, you can do so. But yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this. I would love to hear what some of your favorite series of all time are, if you want to put them in the comments, or if you are interested in reading some of these now. Maybe my little sales pitch actually had an effect. I hope so. Because more people need to read all of these. I think that's something that can be a struggle when you truly, truly love something, is feeling like it doesn't get enough love, and wanting more and more people to love it as much as you do. And I completely understand we do not all love the same thing. So if you are not a fan of these, like, that's okay. I understand. But hopefully I can push my agenda of getting people to read my favorite things. So anyway, again, I would love to hear what your favorite series are, or some of them. You don't have to say all of them. But if you want to tell me some of your favorites in the comments, I am always up for looking for new things to read, even though my list is just exponentially long. And also, maybe some of them are some of my favorites too and will show up in a later video. We shall see. But thank you guys so much for watching. Oh, if you want to leave an emoji, let's do a little apple emoji. I don't know why. I feel like we should do an apple emoji, and I kind of want an apple. But anyway, yeah, so if you want to leave an emoji with your comment, or just let me know you were here, but you don't really have anything else to say, you can put some little apple emojis in the comments section. But yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you're having a wonderful day or a wonderful night wherever you are, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye! Hi. Hi.